how I present my food is just as important for me as to the taste of my food. It really, truly is. And I think it's because I have such a design-focused mind or aesthetically driven kind of outlook. And so whether that's with my writing or photos or indeed food and plating, it always has like an artful perspective to it.
Okay, hi, welcome back. Welcome perhaps for the first time. If that's the case, hi, I'm Katie. You're about to hear a very highly anticipated episode. Dare I say the most highly anticipated episode of this calendar year, because Chloe, Chef Chloe cooks, Chloe Walsh, she's here. She's here, finally. And this is an episode that I love, that you're going to love when I hurry up and get this intro over with, because it's lengthy, and yet I could have continued to speak to Chloe much longer than we even did, and we spoke for a while. I came over to her house. She prepared us a beautiful lunch, which she'll tell you about what we ate in a second. And I love this conversation and where it went. We cover everything from her favorite places to go in LA. We talk about how she ate growing up and her palate, her favorite meals to cook. We talk about food and bodies and living in a body and chronic illness and managing energy and writing and shifting from design into her career in food, growing her audience, trusting her intuition in her work and in the kitchen, and much, much more. I am so grateful that you're here, that you're listening. It means so much to me. And let us know if you listen. Let us know. Chloe and I, we want to do an event together really soon. So if you want info on that, stay tuned. And also at the end, there's this segment that you know, perhaps you love, Asking for a Friend, where I poll some of our mutual friends. So stick around for that. Some of you listening make an appearance. And I just, if you don't know Chloe, she is obviously a chef and a recipe developer and a food stylist and an incredible writer. She writes the Substack Anchovies Soup, and she hosts pop-ups and cooks for her friends, and I'm so lucky to be one of them. I met her a couple years ago. My friend Heidi Baker, friend of the show, previous podcast guest, she had this friend Chloe who I would hear about. She seemed very, very cool. And one fateful day, she invited me to a breakfast at Chloe's house and was like, hey, do you want to come to this thing at Chloe's with me? And I was like, oh my God, I'd love to. Like, I'd love to meet your friend Chloe. And Heidi was like, you don't know Chloe? Like, I thought you for sure met. And I was like, no. And I met her that day, and I had this lovely breakfast. Chloe was incredible, and then we were fast friends. We got a coffee like the next week, and then she invited me to her parties, and then, here we are, we're friends, and we have all these lovely mutual friends, and it's a real honor and a privilege of my life to get to be part of her community and world, and now have her here on this podcast is a dream come true for everyone involved, and hopefully you listening. So here it goes. Here's our conversation. I hope this is the first of many recorded conversations. And you know what I love about this with friends and with people that I know to varying degrees is it's rare. Even with people that I do get to spend time with in person, it's still rare to get to spend this much uninterrupted time where I get to ask them anything I'm curious about and really get that quality time. So thank you so much for giving us that and eavesdropping on it. And I'll talk to you at the end. Here's my conversation with Chloe. Okay, Okay, this is incredible. I can't believe we've had, and maybe we should let's set the scene.
Let's set the
scene. We're in Chloe's house, and she just made us a beautiful lunch.
Farinata, which is Italian chickpea pancake, or soccer if you're in France.
And I was unfamiliar, but now I'm a huge fan. And one of the best salads I've had in my entire life. Which maybe tell everyone about the dressing.
Oh, it's so simple. It was kind of like equal parts vinegar to oil, so like 1-to-1. I like a very vinegary dressing, and depending on ratios, maybe I'll write the recipe for you and we can add it to like the show notes or something.
Yeah.
And then it's a little honey, and then a really good chunk of Dijon mustard, and then shake it all up in a jar. And then we actually added in some Maya lemon juice, which Katie picked up on the way over here. So yeah, that was it. I'm honored that you love the salad so much.
I received a text message last night asking me if I liked anchovies, to which I believe I responded in all caps to yes, I love them. And it really made a difference. That was the game changer. A bite with it was far superior. And I feel that way about most things with anchovies.
Could not agree more.
We're realizing our palate is quite similar. So maybe that's a good place to start. What did you eat growing up?
Let me have a think. I mean, we've had this conversation a little earlier on, just how I've always really loved maybe the things that traditionally other children didn't always love. I'm willing to go on record now with my pickle story.
Yeah, please.
I think a lot of my friends know this story, but I would always walk to school exclusive. I would always walk to school with my friends, and we'd go to the candy store, or in the UK we call it the tuck shop, and everyone would get candies, but I would always go and buy a jar of pickles, and then I would empty the pickle juice out, because I didn't want to get rid of the pickle juice, but it was heavy if I was putting it in my pocket. Emptied the pickle juice out, and then just put the pickles back in my coat pocket for the rest of the day, and I would snack on pickles all day. So maybe a jar would last me a couple of days, and I wouldn't get one every day. But anyway, that's my pickle story. So yeah, I've always loved olives, and I get just things that kids just, and I've never really I guess I like chocolate, but I've never really been into candy or sweet things like that. I'm much more of I've always had a savory palate ever since I was younger. So give me the chips over, or cheese as snack. I'd run home from school and raid the fridge for cheese or whatever. But in terms of meals, my mum was a very good cook, but she kind of was a classic. She had 4 things in her repertoire that she was really good at. Spaghetti bolognese, she was very good at. Always very good at a Sunday roast. So is my dad. They both were extremely good cooks. My dad was a very, very good cook. And I think he introduced me more to the nuances of Indian food, or more adventurous things, whereas my mum was a little bit more straightforward but delicious, So yeah, I obviously was influenced a lot by what they cooked for me at a very young age.
Where do you think that came from, that craving salty over sweet? I mean, I relate. I also didn't want candy and had a similar palate growing up, and I felt embarrassed about it. It was different, and I don't know where it came from for me really either, because it wasn't my dad's palate sort of like that, but my mom's isn't really, and so I don't know if it's nature or nurture. Where do you think the pickle thing began?
I have an inkling that it was my granddad. So I had my first tin of fish with him probably when I was God knows how young. And it became a ritual on Saturdays, and he would pickle his own celery, but he would pickle it in salt, salt water. So it was more like brined, I suppose. And we'd sit and we'd have a tin of fish together and pickled celery, or as I said, brine celery. But his palate is very much what my palate is now, basically. Lots of pickly things, briny things, a little bit of spice. The mackerel he would get would always be a spiced mackerel in tomato sauce.
So good.
And so I think... and this was my dad's dad, and so my dad's palate was fairly similar, but it was more ritualistic on Saturdays when me and my sister would be with my grandparents. Me and my granddad would always have little lunches like that together. So I think that's probably where my palate for that began. and never left.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Maybe me too, now that you're saying that, because I was just in Michigan and I wanted to take some of my, like I took a couple hats that used to be my grandpa's and a couple of his shirts, and I had this memory come back of, he used to babysit me a lot, and he would make a bowl of tuna and mustard and dip crackers in that.
Yeah.
And I do that all the time.
Yeah.
A version of that, and I was like, oh, I put the pieces together of that, and it's really sweet. It's sweet when that you can just follow the thread back to the influence, and it's something that's like a tender, nice memory like that.
For sure, yeah. And I think I've only really figured that out in the past few years, because a few people have asked me like where that palette kind of comes from, and I think it's been a really nice process kind of retracing those steps, because I feel like my parents for sure had an impact on my cooking and the way that I eat, and for sure like hosting, like they were always hosting people. Like I think I learned the love of being social from my parents, but for sure food was my grandma and my granddad, and the very different palates in that sense as well. But they would always eat very like kind of, you know, classic British food, which I still love to this day, and not British food that you guys would be like necessarily familiar with, but like kind of very traditional, even like West Midlands type British food.
What is that?
I mean, I don't know where exactly the origins are, but there's things like liver and onions. There would be like gammon steak, which I guess you could kind of call like ham, and you always would have it with the parsley sauce. That for me is just so much, like it just reminds me of my grandma's cooking so much. Or I'd go into the house and there'd always be like dumpling soup going, or she'd always make really good Irish coffee after dinner, which always had a little bit of whiskey in and like a cream top. But like, you know, classic kind of grandma and grandpa food. But I just love, and I loved my grandma's food so much.
How does all of that, the pickle story, the palette, the home cooking, how does that influence how you cook now and when you started?
I think it depends, I think, which way you're looking at it, because I feel like it influences definitely the way I cook at home, and for sure influences the way I cook for other people, whether that's a pop-up or a supper club. But I feel like for those kind of situations, you know, it needs to be slightly more nuanced. For me anyway. I mean, my cooking is always going to be very home style anyway. And I think it's like the things that I crave. So if I'm at home, like sometimes, you know, Andy and I will eat the same thing, but more often than not, we'll like make separate things, because I really want like Scotch broth, which is like a lamb soup, which I'll like make at the beginning of the week and kind of plow through it slowly. Or, you know, minestrone, my grandma would make it from scratch a lot as well. And so more like those craveable grandma, grandpa type things are things that I will eat in the week at home for myself. I did do a British supper club at the beginning of the year and put a few of the things on the menu. I put like a Scotch egg, which is obviously very classic British, along with many other things. And people actually really responded well to it. So I think British food has such a like negative connotation, you know, but hopefully people can eat some of my food and get a better grasp on that it's not just brown food.
Well, I think that's how you open people up to new things, and that's the point of coming to something that, you know, whether it's a pop-up or going out to dinner or going over to somebody's house is, and I think that's relevant in the pickle story. What I like about that is, and I am wondering, like, did you ever feel like you, and still now even, and it's a little bit different when you're cooking for a client, but do you ever feel like you have to cater or like hide what you actually like to? Of course you have to when you are doing a job, but going back to when you were a kid, what I love about the pickle story is like, for instance, I felt embarrassed to like those things, and so I just wanted to like pizza and candy and not to fit in. But I think it's actually good to take ownership of what your palate is, that's how you can explore something new with someone else. And sometimes it does, like I was saying before, I love jicama, and I've like tried to give it to so many friends who have literally like spit it out and been grossed out. But I don't know, I think it's good to own that. Like, how does that resonate for you?
It's so funny that you're asking that question. I was having this conversation with somebody last night. There was something that I wanted to put on my menu in New York, And actually, I ended up putting it on the menu. It's something I've been wanting to make for a long time. It's nothing kind of like, you know, crazy. I made a lamb and rosemary ragu, and I wanted to put it on toast. So not with your traditional like rigatoni or spaghetti. In the UK, there's a restaurant called St. John, a very famous, you know, like steeped in British history, very British sensibility about its food and its ingredients. It's kind of like nose to tail cooking.
Yeah.
And they have a venison version. And there's also a very similar version at Straker's, which is another kind of very, I guess it's an institution now. It's probably only been open for like 5 years, but it's a very like, it's a well-loved restaurant. It's venison on toast as well. And I asked my husband his thoughts on that, and he was like, no, I think you should do rigatoni. And in my stomach, I was just like, no, I want to do something that feels very British.
Yeah.
And then I asked kind of the head chef who was kind of helping me with my pop-up in New York, his opinion. And he was like, look, it sounds delicious, but this is New York. But I still was like, I need to stand strong in my conviction here. I'm going to put it on the menu. I put it on the menu, and we sold out. We had to 86 it. It was gone so quickly. People loved it so much. They were coming up. They actually were like getting out of their seats to come up and say like how much they loved it. And that it was just, I did it with like a kind of, with like a horseradish creme fraiche on top as well. So I think it was just, it's kind of like a lot of my food is very like, I guess it's like homey or like kind of slightly healthier versions of comfort food. It has a British sensibility about it. But I studied in Italy, so it's definitely got some kind of like Italian peasant food vibes about it. I grew up a lot of my life in Spain, so it's got lots of like Spanish influence throughout as well. It's very Eurocentric. But going back to your question, I think it is important to not only stay true to yourself, but also believe in what you think to be true. And that if that means like not hiding that you really like pickles, or wanting to put a lamb and rosemary ragu on because you truly feel like people will truly enjoy it, it's kind of like, trust your gut instincts on those things.
I mean, I think doing it from a creativity perspective, I think doing the thing that's most you is important, because I mean that we can broaden this out further of like this era that we live in not being a monoculture, and how everything's the same and it's kind of boring, and you can make your house look this good by just like getting things that Instagram tells you, but It's so sterile and there's no personality. And I think it's the same thing. You can cook something that you see on Instagram, but the life is sucked out of those things. And I think it's really easy to, and I understand why, because you took a risk. And I think any piece of art or food is,
anything you're kind of presenting, I suppose, to like somebody else in whatever way you think.
Taking a risk and having it be the most specific.
Yeah.
And that's what they say about writing too. It's like if you're writing for everyone, you're writing to no one, or marketing or whatever.
Yeah,
it's like, you wanted, it's that, but it's risky. And I think especially in, the further you broaden this out, the further it's like, we want people to like us. We want validation. We want to,
totally,
be palatable in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
And I think that's really,
but
that's
then
really commendable.
But then things can become homogenized and
boring.
Yeah, it's, I think, I have conversations with you and friends all the time. And I think I want to start, there's so much more that I want to put on my menus that I think after this New York pop-up, I think I'm going to start doing it, because why not?
Yeah.
Life's too short.
And I'm so glad you had that experience, because that's so validating of like, I went with my gut, even though I, and sometimes it could have gone the other way.
Totally.
And then maybe you'd learn from that, or maybe you'd be like, what, that wasn't the scene for that, but I'm still going to, it's something you have to continually think about. And just separately, very controversial take, don't like pasta.
Oh,
and
wow.
My friend,
how did I not know this?
Yeah, I mean, I'll eat. It's like, it's fine. It's not like, but I just don't prefer it, and literally don't know how to make it. Would never choose it on a menu. And whenever someone my friend Zoe, who I don't know if you ever met, but she moved. She's British like you and lives in London now. But whenever she would make pasta, she would try to get me to like what is it called? The one that has capers and anchovies and I love the sauce.
It's not amatriciana. It's
puttanesca.
Yes. Oh, it's such a good one. Very briny.
Yes, I love the sauce, and she was right because she knows my palate, and it's similar to you. Capers, it's speaking my language.
Yeah.
But every time she would make it, she would just say, she's like, I know you're gonna say it. I know you're gonna say it. And every time I have pasta, I'm like, God, this would be so good on bread.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is it. This is my calling. I need to make you do you like lamb? I'll make you lamb ragu.
I don't eat meat.
I'll make you a vegetarian version, but we'll have loads of rosemary in, so we'll still have very much the same flavor profile on toast.
Okay.
The other day, I actually did post on my Instagram, and I got so many likes, and it made me laugh because I was like, this was the type of food that we were talking about earlier. Like, I make by myself. Yeah. I don't know why I took a photo of it because I was like, it's kind of like I eat this on my own and I don't want people to know I'm eating this. I just didn't want pasta that night, but I really wanted, I think I'd made like a sauce for friends the night before, and I roasted massive chunks of zucchini in the oven until they got really kind of like caramelized, and I had the ragu over the roasted zucchini, and it was so good, guys. If anyone thinks that roasting vegetables is a good replacement for pasta, it's not. But it's a great substitute if you don't feel like eating pasta that night.
Or just something different. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. I have like 18 avenues that we could go down, but I think one that I'm choosing is about a year ago, I was preparing for this, and as I told you before this, it was so lovely to get to spend time with my real life friend, but in this internet way yesterday.
Yeah.
And you were saying in this podcast that was recorded about a year ago, at the beginning, the question of what do you do, you were saying back then, and I think what I love about podcasts is they're a time capsule of like a moment in time and what you've thought and how you felt then. And so you were saying that you never quite know what to say when you get posed that question. And now a year has passed and so much has changed and grown for you just even in that year. And so I'm curious, how has your answer evolved, and has it gotten easier to answer it in the last year?
Yes and no, because I think, calling myself a chef is always an interesting thing. And I actually ask people's opinions on this all the time. I think of myself as a cook. I think of a chef as someone that works in a restaurant. I have indeed worked in restaurants over my lifetime, but I think I'm much more comfortable and strong in my conviction when I'm talking about things that I'm a cook. I'm a recipe developer. I've also added in the last year writer to my repertoire, which is not, I've always written, but I'm outwardly writing to people now. I started my Substack, I think in January, and I've just absolutely adored the process. Good. And thank you. I've always wanted to talk more about what influences me, and a lot of that is travel and being able to experience different foods.
What's the name of your Substack?
It's called Anchovies Soup, because I eat both of those things very regularly.
Our favorite foods.
Our favorite foods.
Table.
Yes. And I think it kind of speaks to the person that I am. But anyway, it's kind of like it's all encompassing.
It really does speak to it says it all somehow.
It kind of says it all in those two words. And yeah, I think I've really loved how much people have really have messaged me and told me that they love it, and hearing about, sometimes I'm like, am I talking too much about my trip to London, and people want just like a singular recipe, but the response to my actual stories about travel and my experiences and trying different foods wherever I am, and also feeling very grateful to be able to travel as much as I do, and talking about that, people have responded to it really well. I've always kept a journal and things like that, but actually putting pen to paper, quote unquote, on the internet has been a really transformative thing for me. And I really love the process of writing the posts. So yeah, added writer. I think with anything, right, with time, you become more comfortable with owning who you are, owning what you're doing. It was probably 4 years ago now that I fully went freelance doing food. And the more you do, you know, I've done a lot more food styling over the past like year and a half. So you just become more comfortable. Like if someone to ask me now, what I think the question is like, it's hard to just that one answer. What am I? I guess I'm a cook. But it's like, then people are like, oh, where? So I still don't have a single answer because I do many, many different things that are still under the umbrella of food. But yes, I feel more confident answering that question now.
I think that question is just that question. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's for unless you have a very specific, singular, more focused job. I think for someone who does, I mean, I have like 17 jobs, you know, and it seems that answer is getting more difficult, oddly, the older I get. But it's for people who are just constantly, there's many shifts that happen. And so that question becomes a less interesting question when you have a short amount of time, like at a party or starting something. I never ask it. I don't even like consider it when I meet someone now. Yeah. And I'll say like, what did you do today? Yeah. Which, you know, you'll kind of get the gist of, you'll get that other one answered, but they'll say they can take it however they want to take it.
Rather than being like, what do you do for a living?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, what did you do?
Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
Although, but I also am curious and want to know eventually, you know, so it's like we all have to have the answer. I don't know. And that's the other thing too, like constantly making, and I want to talk to you about career pivots because you've done that as well, but people are maybe perhaps within that or maybe within, you know, this is going to sound dramatic and I don't mind the question. It's a completely normal small talk question, but it's almost saying like, are you married? You know what I mean? Like, it's like no one would ask that necessarily.
So why are you asking?
Yeah, this is the first time I'm like having
thinking
this
about
thought,
it.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's a very like specific question, and not everybody wants to necessarily talk about that either, you know? Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. And it's kind of asking like, do you guys want to have kids? It's like, you know, you don't always want to get asked that question. Yeah.
And I guess it's not at all the same thing as those, but
depending on the person, and depending on
it could bring up similar feelings. That's what we're
totally.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Speaking of that, and you know, we kind of just jumped right in about you, but you have made a career pivot. You have a background in art and design and painting, and I believe that's what you studied. So. How does that influence to start with your food and how you cook?
Absolutely. I mean, it influences everything from my perspective. I think it's definitely it's fully entwined into how I think about food, how I think about, how I present my food is just as important for me as to the taste of my food. It really, truly is. And I think it's because I have such a design focused mind or aesthetically driven kind of outlook. And so whether that's with my writing or photos or indeed food and plating, it always has like an artful perspective to it, I think personally. And people have commented as well. Just it's a little different to some of the other kind of things that you see on Instagram. Indeed, there's some incredible, beautiful art, you know, very artfully presented food as well. But it's definitely my style, and it's got like a perspective. It's got like an angle to it, I think, which you can kind of, some people will tell me like, or they'll send me something like, oh, this looks very like Chloe cooks. And I'll agree, like it really does look like something that I would like take or make, you know?
Or reshare, or, you know, oftentimes I just so admire your taste and your eye, and you'll share things on Instagram and it's like my favorite to click through them, and they're often things that I've saved or liked or and I'm like, oh, that does feel very you, and not beyond food, you know, architecture, art. Where do you think your design sensibilities and inspiration come from? Were you always that way, you know, when you had the pickles in your pocket?
Yes, I think so. Like, as I said, I studied art, but even right down to like when I was at like primary school, we call it in the UK, I, you know, always wanted to do textiles. I've always been a very, very creative person before ever really deciding what I wanted to do for like real school. I was in performance studies and expressive arts. So I've always been very artistic and creative with everything that I've ever done in my life. But I think kind of honed more in on that when I went to college and decided to do artwork. But yeah, I've always been interested or had an eye for anything beautiful. And my mum has always said that I'm kind of like a magpie. I'm just drawn to shiny things, whether that's jewelry, whether that's painting, whether that's beautiful writing, whether that's a gorgeous cushion or a sofa or a piece of fruit hanging on a tree. I'm very drawn to, you know, a shimmering bit of light on a wall, you know. And I've always been that way. I think it's just who I am, and I've been able to kind of channel that into like a work situation, I suppose.
Which is so cool. So you're working in design, you were working in interiors, and you were cooking, and then you transitioned into cooking more full time. Can you talk a little bit about what that transition felt like? And then you've also said that your audience grew very quickly. And so what were your feelings around that? Did you have any apprehension to that? I mean, of course, you know, as you said, it's exciting and led to a lot of goodness, and you knew that. But did you? When I heard that, I was like, I wonder internally, like, what came up for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I was working in design, a design adjacent job, and a classic story, I feel like, for many different people across many different careers. Everything kind of changed in the pandemic. I've always cooked. I've hosted supper clubs since I was at university. I've always loved food. I've worked in restaurants and bars while supporting myself through school. And this is a side note, but I decided not to pursue that because of my arthritis, which, again, we can talk about that further down the line. But I've always been very hospitality driven, whether that's welcoming people into my home and so it was always a huge part of my life. But come kind of, I guess maybe like more like 2018, 2019, you know, moving to San Francisco, I was documenting the food. I was eating out a lot more. So my following kind of grew a little bit to like, I guess I had maybe like 2,000 followers. But then during the pandemic, I was photographing and everything I was cooking, making, eating, and just it grew from there. And yeah, I think I'm almost at 70,000 followers now, and I guess that started growing in like 2020. So yeah, 4 years. It was such an interesting time because indeed it was very exciting, but it was, yeah, you kind of are like, wow, what's going on? This is so cool. But then I think there is a pressure as well to kind of like keep up appearances, you know? And so there was a part of that for sure, like not apprehension, but just not really knowing what was going and not really knowing what was going to be leading to. Yeah, that's like excitement mixed with like some kind of like unknown feelings as well, I suppose. But I'm also very much a person, I'm very go with the flow, and I just kind of was like, this is amazing. So like I feel like there was less apprehension and more excitement from my point of view anyway. Yeah, and then it's just been, you know, growing ever since when I decided to quit my job and transition full-time into food. I had already been doing a few things on the side, but not really because I was working full-time. It was kind of impossible. But then I started an email address, started a website, and then everything kind of came flowing in. And so it really made me secure in, okay, I can see if this is going to work for maybe a few months. And it did, and I've just never looked back. And I feel like I've thrown my all into everything that I've done so far, and it's worked out amazingly so far.
Wow, it's so cool. And it's inspiring that both the transition and the organic growth and and also knowing how hard you work and how hard you've spoken about this before too. There's self-doubt that comes in when you're doing this, you know, primarily on your own. And even despite having a great community around you, much of which, you know, we share and I know, but I think we all can feel two things, you know, the self-doubt of being seen and also like kind of what we were talking about even with making choices before. And then the overwhelm, you know, which is something that, of course, with your arthritis, but also just even beyond or unrelated to that too, just having to juggle so much.
Yeah.
How do you work with that? What has helped you with that?
Well, having good friends around to bounce ideas off, my husband for sure. But also, I am a yes person. I always will be. I find it very difficult to say no to things, especially things that feel very exciting. And I also would rather be blue in the face busy than bored. Yeah. So I'm kind of my own worst enemy. I say to people all the time, my calendar will be the death of me, but I do love it. Sometimes I do get into bed at night and I am like, oh my goodness, I am so exhausted. And like looking at my calendar for the next day, but I'm like, if I can get a good 7 hours in, I'll be fine. But I truly love it all, and I like the dynamics of my job as well. Like every day truly is different. Like I might be filming some like content at home one day, then I have some meetings the next day, then I'm like on a shoot the next day, and then I also indeed will have a couple of days where it's quiet and I have to lean into that. And like even usually January and February are kind of quieter, I think, for most people, but this year was not. So I really haven't, and the summer has been wild, like so busy. So I'm so grateful for it all, but I haven't had too much downtime this year, which I'm so grateful for it. But I'm looking forward to January and maybe hopefully taking just like a couple of weeks to kind of, I think you need to decompress to then enable yourself to do better work when you've had a rest. I think too many people will just power through, and indeed many people have to power through. But if you can take the time to rest and recalibrate, which I'm hopefully going to do in January, it allows you to do better work and, moving forward.
Okay, so it won't shock you. I have a lot of irons in the fire, a lot of ideas. I just wrote a Substack about the fact that I am a chronic drafts person. Like I have a lot of drafts and not a ton of finished, completed, shared work. And I found out I'm not alone when I wrote that. There are tons of distractions around us at all times. We all know that. It's hard to focus on what you are actually wanting to do. Then I have something that I've been trying that I want to tell you about, because a lot of us, myself included, think that stress is sort of par for the course with getting a lot done. And we also all know that stress is the worst possible thing for our mental and physical health. So I've been using this product that was founded 5 years ago, and they have set out to create something, a drink that can constantly get us back to 100% mental performance. That really good feeling when you're like, all right, I'm on it. The coffee's hitting, the whatever, right? It's called Magic Mind. The incredible thing about them is that it can do that. It can get you to that 100% mental performance without any of the downsides, without any of the side effects, the jitters, the anxiety. They made 106 different tries on this. We love an underdog. We love someone who's trying, who's formulating, who's in the lab. And then, on the 106th, they found a formula that did exactly that, gives you the 100% mental performance. So anyway, I have been trying it, and what's really great is I feel like it's actually working, which most supplements, most drinks, you don't feel that way. And it's only been 4 days. I'm going to come back and tell you how I've been doing after a week using it, but so far so good. And I'm really excited to see how I'll feel using it even more consistently. And if it can help me, it can truly help anyone. My brain is in 100 billion directions, very nonlinear. I might get there, but I'm going to go around the back, through the legs, over the shoulder, But Magic Mind, helps me get there perhaps faster, but definitely helps me arrive at all. So if you would like to try it, they are making that very easy for you to do. Magic Mind is a mental performance shot, and you drink it in addition to your daily routine. It gets you focused, it gets you mentally clear, motivated, and helps you to be productive while reducing stress. And how do they do this? Great question. I had the same question. The answer is mushrooms, nootropics, adaptogens, and over 100% of your daily vitamin C and vitamin D per bottle. Dare I say the most important of the two vitamins. I'm no doctor, but they seem like the hits to me. It's 100% safe. All these ingredients have been third-party tested, and there's no quick fix, of course, But drinking this drink helps to balance your stress levels, which, really can help you to be more productive. And I think that's really cool. It's not a coffee replacement. You don't have to give up your coffee, thank God. This is just something that you can add to your morning routine, just like other vitamins. And it's just a vitamin for your mind. It helps your coffee to actually last all day because it can help make it so it's time released. So the caffeine doesn't actually give you the energy, I learned. It blocks the neuroreceptors in your brain and tells them to not tell you that you're tired. So when the neuroreceptors unblock 2 to 3 hours later, then that's how we experience this sudden drop in energy, also known as the caffeine crash. But their formula uses 12 active ingredients that help change that. They help support your body's engine. And anyway, it's really cool. It's helping me. I think that you might like it too. If you want to try it, it's really easy. There's no risk, so you can be 100% confident that you're into the product. Just try it because, listen, you'll get 100% refund. If you don't like it, no questions asked. For 100 days after buying, you'll get a refund. So just try it. Just order one. Why not? There's truly no risk because 100% they're going to give you your money back for 100 days if you don't like it. So you might as well. It ships to every country and you can find it in some stores like Sprouts and Erewhon if you're here in LA. The point is they have a Black Friday offer, making it 50% off. I did not say 15, I said 50% off until the 6th of December, only with my link. This is only with my link. So you go to magicmind.com/LIOBF. LIOBF. That, I believe that stands for Let It Out BF. Best friend, probably. Again, that's a Black Friday offer. It's currently 50% off until the 6th of December, only with my link, magicmind.com/LIOBF. Okay, that's that. Now back to the episode with Chloe. Yeah, and I think it's tricky, that saying no piece. It's easy to say no to things that like something comes across your phone. I was going to say desk, but to your Palm Pilot.
To my iPad.
Yeah. And, when you have a busy day, it's like, okay, I don't want to do that, no problem. But it's that exact piece that you said of things that you want to do, but you have to manage your energy.
Yes.
It's not managing your time, it's your energy.
Yes.
And, having a chronic illness on another level, but also, being a freelancer where it's very easy if you have a full-time job to just be like, I'm booked. I even like
I'm
that.
working 9 to, I can't do that. Yeah.
Totally. Sometimes when I have a plan where I just know, it's so relieving where I like Friday nights, like if somebody invites me, I work at Substack, as you know, like it's just like sometimes it's nice to not have to choose.
Yes.
But when
so
it's
true.
anything that like is movable and it's on you to make another choice.
And people know it's movable if you can, or even just things like I love networking with friends, but also community. And I love getting a coffee with a new friend, but sometimes I have to kind of try and not rein that in, but like I want to be meeting new people all the time, but then sometimes I realize I've got like 7 coffee dates that week with potential clients or like exciting thing. Who knows? But then it sometimes those are the ones that I find difficult sometimes to say no to, because I really, really do want to go and meet someone and get to know somebody. But I think that is I'm in the throes of learning how to manage my time in that sense right now, actually. And I had this conversation with lots of my close friends, and they're just kind of like, you need to say no more. And I'm like, I don't know how to.
Well, the tricky thing is you never know. Sometimes those things are energizing and sometimes they're depleting and you don't know. And sometimes I'm like, because I think we're both pretty extroverted to an extent, and when I do say no and prioritize resting or whatever, sometimes I'm like, oh man, I kind of wish I would have got the thing,
I know.
And so it's like, it's a real, you have to really decide. And I also have found, and I'm curious what you think about this, it feels very LA to me. And I've only lived here for 4 years and they've all been post-pandemic. So it was hard for me at first to notice, like, is this just the world after the pandemic, or is this LA, or is it the age that I'm in now? Or being a freelancer, I had a full-time job before too, but I was like, does anybody work here? Because I was just like, all I'm doing is friend.
No,
like,
it's
how
LA.
do I get anything done?
It's LA.
But then I also, like, a lot can happen, like, we literally, like, the reason we're doing this is because we bumped into each other. We've been trying to do this for years, but we bumped into each other at Amara, on a random morning and had like
Tuesday.
A lovely coffee, which was like great, but we didn't have to put it on the calendar.
No, and none of us, like, I was leaving Amara, but I wasn't rushing off. I mean, I think
we both were kind of
we were like,
in a rush.
We'll stop for an we both were kind of in a rush, but we ended up stopping for an hour.
Yeah, it was a delight.
But I say this to everybody. I even speak to my friends in New York. I speak to my friends in London. Friends come here and they're like, does anyone work here? And I'm like, absolutely. Everyone works actually really hard, but we're all freelance. So, like, we really make our own schedules.
Right.
And so Kate, my friend, and I, we talk about this all the time. Someone's like, oh, let's get dinner on Sunday night. And then someone inevitably is like, oh, Sunday's like my night to chill. And we're always like, why? We don't have a schedule. Like, your Sunday night could be your Friday night if you want it to be.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, you're right. Let's go and get some wine then, because it's whatever. But, like, I think, like, if people are reaching out in LA to other people in LA, that you're going to be able to go and grab a coffee if your schedule's free, but at like 10 a.m. on a Thursday morning, because most people are freelance here.
Right. And I think that what you said about Sundays of you can go because you don't have a set schedule. But the thing is, because we don't, then we are responsible for managing our energy.
Trying to, like, make some kind of schedule.
Yeah, or
ourselves.
just the thing that was tricky for me when I felt like I was just friending, and I still often feel this way.
Yeah.
But I had so much on my socially doing great, friendship-wise doing great,
Yes.
but like every other area of my life, like that people can imagine, needs improvement, but exceeds expectations
It's
high.
because all of our friends are so amazing. Like, honestly, half the time all I want to do is hang out with my friends.
Totally. And then the other thing too, related to that, is like so much can actually come from that. Like I was saying, like, with bumping into you, like there are sometimes no, sometimes yes. And that's the thing. You can't have any expectation, but it does happen that way. But then it becomes, everything feels important. Every going to the thing, every coffee date, every whatever feels important.
You can't, like, make, like, one evening, like, the guilt that I need to go and support, but also I really want to go to that thing.
Because it just is fun. Not
It's
even because
so
something
fun.
will come of it, or in a, like...
No, it's so fun. Like, I just love all the events. And, like, sometimes I don't text anyone, like, are you going to this event? I already know that I'm going to see.
It's the best feeling.
Yeah, it's the best.
I felt that way walking into Kate's birthday party.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I
same.
had this, like, moment where I was like, it was so funny because, like, two of my friends were at my apartment to pick me up, but Heidi was also picking me up, and I was like, just meet me there. Like, Heidi's here, and Maddie was also going to drive me, and so I had like 14 rides.
We're all going to the same
by
location.
my apartment. Yeah, but I did want to ride because I'm carrying this like very heavy cake, and then when I walked in, I hadn't been to a party in a minute where there are parties where you go and like a few couple people, and that's fine. But it requires more energy because you're going to be having maybe getting asked that question that we talked about earlier. But it was so cool to walk in and be like, wow, I know pretty much everybody here, it's a different thing. But the importance of everything and not wanting to miss out, and it's not in a like traditional sense of, if I don't go to this, then maybe they won't. It's really like comes from us.
Yeah, it truly is just like, I don't want to miss out seeing everybody or like experiencing that really fun thing. Yeah.
Yes. But then it becomes, you have to manage your own energy, because if your time is flexible, because you can go out on a Sunday, you can go to the thing, you never know if you go to a party where you know everybody, that might give you so much energy, and then you feel like you can like power through some emails or write something because you're like so filled up with the good dopamine from that. Yeah. But then there might be something that's draining if you're having to really like, and you never know. So then I'm sure you know about the spoons thing. Do you know about this?
Maybe, or maybe you've told me about it.
Maybe, but I think I probably have, because I'm like a broken record, and people who listen to the podcast fast forward 30 seconds because you've heard this 100 times. But somebody's therapist gave this to them and then gave it to me, and it's gentle shared language to talk about energy management, which is different, right, than time management.
Yes.
And it was developed by a therapist who actually worked with people with chronic illness, because they have to change plans often.
Is this where the term spoonie comes from? Because people with chronic illnesses call themselves spoonies.
Maybe. Well, this is it, and you can tell me. But I use it all the time with a few of my friends that I like. My friend Sophie and I always just say, like, I still want to come to dinner, but I'm spoonless, like, just so you know. And so
I love saying that from the outset to friends, so that, and I do that sometimes as well, like, just so that they know where you're at.
Totally.
Yeah.
So essentially what it is like, everybody has a set amount of spoons that just is inherent, and it's different for everybody.
Like a daily set. That's
totally. Like you wake up with this amount of spoons. So like, let's say for you it's 12, for me it's 4, you know, but we all have our set amount. Some people have more, some people have less, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so everything you do in the day either gives you spoons or takes away spoons from you. So like in every interaction, right? So
everything.
A couple of days ago, I got a parking ticket, and that took 2 spoons, right?
I got one yesterday.
Really? Takes you weird conversation with your
mom,
boss, mom, whatever. 1 spoon down, you know, because it wasn't that weird, you know. A really bad one, 4 spoons down, you know, and then maybe you. Like right now, this is giving me spoons. So I'll leave here like 1 up, you know?
Yeah.
But if you have so much throughout a day or a week, whatever, like you might be negative spoons, or you might be like, I actually have plenty, but I know that I have about, 5 spoons, but I know that I have tomorrow morning this really important interview,
so you need to save
that
the spoons
I actually have to manage the spoons. And so that becomes very important being a freelancer. Becomes very important having chronic illness, or living in LA, I think, or being everyone, perhaps. But it is nice to have that shared language, like between people you're close with, to be like, I have about 3 spoons, or like I have this, you know. And so I don't know. That maybe is where that comes from.
It is, and just knowing and hearing you speak about that, and being someone that has a chronic illness, I don't really refer to myself as a spoonie, but like online people with fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, like, MS, refer to themselves as spoonies, and it is that. So I have heard about the spoon theory, but I just didn't know it was the same. Yeah, and I think I find that difficult, like even just going into sometimes you're looking at your week ahead, and I'm like, if I can just get to the end of this week, and I think sometimes I know I'm going to be spoonless at the end of that week, but like if I just know I can get to the end of that week, everything will be okay.
And it feels kind of good too. Like I don't
have like a busy
I think it's overrated to manage the spoons, so be stingy with the spoons, you know? Like I always say this, like I rather err on the side of overgiving or being a bit depleted than I think it's good for us to push ourselves in that way to a point.
And be good and honest. And I think it's a good thing, not be good, but I think it's a good thing to tell our friends.
Yeah.
Like, I love you, or fully like, I love you, but I am so depleted this evening, I'm not going to come. And I think, real friends will completely understand. Or be like, just letting you know, I'm on my last 2 spoons,
but I'm
not going to be like the life and soul tonight, but I'm going to be there. You know, I think it's really good. And I think we both have very good dialogue, amongst our friends with that kind of thing, which is definitely important.
Completely. And that's another thing in this, the time capsule episode that I heard from you. You were wanting to do more in real life events and cooking. And it's so cool to see when I was listening to that. I was like, she did it, which is so fun. But also, talk about spoon management. How has that felt being more in person this year?
It's felt amazing because as you've touched upon, I am an extrovert. I'm an introverted extrovert, or I'm an extroverted introvert. So I definitely need my time to recuperate, but I get energy from people, and so and when I say I love cooking for people, it truly is because I just love seeing people having conversations around the table, enjoying my food. It's never for a reason that it's never a selfish reason, if that makes sense. So to be able to extend that, so I can I think having a supper club to begin with out of my home was so amazing, but I can't host all the time out of my home. And so taking that to like pop-ups and being able to like cook for more people has just been so wonderful. And, you know, a lot of people have like come back, and there's 2 amazing, beautiful girls called the Darias, and they're both called Daria, and they come to every single, they're so supportive, and they say that they just love my food, and it's just really lovely that like I'm able to kind of meet people and hear them say those things, which is really just overwhelmingly amazing. And I love kind of being back in, you know, whenever I'm like doing a pop-up, you're kind of like back in like a restaurant kitchen. So it's really fun, like being back in that kind of atmosphere. Although I don't run my kitchen like most chefs, or not chefs in general, but like many kitchens that I've been in. I try to keep it very friendly, very collaborative. What shall we say? Or I like to think. Yeah, it's just been really amazing, and I want to continue doing more, you know, pop-ups, in-person things. Like I said, I've just done 2 in New York. I'm planning an entire summer next year in Europe, doing pop-ups and traveling.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm going to be in London, Scotland, Greece. We'll talk about that. Yeah, so yeah, just kind of feeling everything out as to whether maybe one day soon I might want to open a little cafe myself. And so doing all of this right now is kind of hopefully going to lead me to a decision down the line. Cool. Yeah.
Wow. So I think with what we were talking about with energy management, like we both kind of experienced this too, of like having to have period. There are seasons that are very internal and that are very inside, and then you went through one of those, you know, I think on the front end of this, and then now are kind of emerging this year, and that's been really cool to see. But I think it probably is also, you know, makes you have to, I can imagine, consider the spoons even more.
Very, very much so. And touching on what you said, like the end of last year, I think I told you I was so depleted. And even actually going back to, so even if I do one of my pop-ups, I the day after I feel kind of numb. And I think it's one, because I'm so exhausted, but just like you're talking so much to people, not only people in the kitchen. I'll always go out and like sit at the table, have a quick little glass of wine with everybody. It takes so much, and like it's not just that one night, like you're prepping for like 3 or 4 days before, and so like and like a couple of weeks before, your mind is focusing on like the menu and ingredients. So it is intense. And so I usually try to kind of have a little bit more of like a downtime week after one of these events, because I just wouldn't be able to wrap my head around like doing another one. And so I know many people in LA that do continuous pop-ups, and I put all props to them. I'm very lucky that the pop-ups aren't my only source of income, because people that are doing pop-ups, like, you know, sometimes 3 times a week, it's different to having your own kitchen, because you have your fridge with all of your prep in that you can just keep rolling, you know, kind of rolling over. Doing actual pop-ups, you're having to haul stuff to every single location that you're going to. It's different. It is different to like running a restaurant kitchen. It's very laborious. And so many props to the people that do it more. You know, I do my pop-ups like maybe once a month. And that's a good ratio for me. But maybe that does go back to me having arthritis and needing to kind of preserve some of my spoons.
Yeah. And I mean, I want to talk about that a little bit, if that's okay, because hearing about your rheumatoid arthritis and just how you live your life and what you have to go through, I think I learned a lot by reading about it and being your friend, and that I think it's what we were talking about with, you know, energy management and feeling overwhelmed. I think people can relate to no matter what, but there's this whole extra layer that you wrote about it so beautifully on your Substack.